Hey kids, it's Mrs. Davis from Happy Place to Grow. Welcome back into my channel. I'm so glad you are here once again because I have an awesome learning session planned for us. It is now the season of fall officially. We are in the month of September. It's back to school time. And when I'm thinking about September and fall and back to school, I'm always thinking about a really tasty fruit, the apple. Now, I love apples. How about you? Do you love apples? My favorite kind of apple, though, is not this Red Delicious. It's actually a Granny Smith. I love the sour, juicy taste of a Granny Smith. What's your favorite apple? All right, shout it out on count of three. Tell me what your favorite apple flavor is. 1, 2, 3. I heard some of you say red apple or Red Delicious. A few of you said Granny Smith. And some of you said Golden Delicious. Apples are really good. My mom used to always say this little saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Have you heard that one? Well, I thought it would be really interesting today if we read a book that is going to teach us some more facts and information about this topic, apples. When you're learning something, you need to select a nonfiction book because nonfiction books are designed to give us information and facts about real people, places, things, events. And so when we're navigating through this nonfiction selection, Amazing Apples, we're going to be learning some totally true facts. Now that's different from a fiction story. A lot of times we'll get together and we'll read a fiction story and have fun with it. Fiction stories have characters and settings and problems and solutions. You have to read a fiction story in order so that you understand what's happening, the events. With a nonfiction, you can just open it up and start gathering facts. So there's a little bit difference between a fiction and nonfiction. Now, because we want to learn about this topic, we're going to be working through this nonfiction selection. Now, I know what you're saying out there, Mrs. Davis, I already know a lot about apples. And, I do too. I know a lot. But no matter how old you are or how much you know about a topic or subject, you can always learn new information. So we've got to do a few things before we start reading when you're thinking about a nonfiction selection. The first thing you have to do is think about what you already know about the topic. Not what you like about the topic. Like I like Granny Smith apples. They're my favorite. So I might think these are the best apples in the world, better than all the rest. That's just my opinion. That's my feeling. When you're thinking about what you know, the fact that you're thinking about has to apply to all apples, no matter who's thinking about it, it's true. So let's think for just a minute. I'm going to say my fact that I think that I know about apples, and then you can share yours. All right, so I know that apples are a fruit. Okay, I want you to think for just a minute and tell me what you know about apples. Okay, go ahead, shout it out. I heard lots of you say you know that apples grow on trees. And then I heard some of you say you can buy apples at the store. That's true. So let's see if we can gather some more information. The second thing that you have to do before you read, now that you've thought about what you already know, kind of went through a list in your mind, the second thing you have to do before you read is you have to question. You have to have a question. What do I want to learn? What's my purpose for reading? What's something I don't think I know for sure about the topic? So our topic is apples. So think for just a minute. What's something that you're not sure about? Okay, let me think. Oh, I have a question. I want to know where apples are found, what places they're found. Like I know they grow on a tree, but what areas of the country can I find, or the world can I find apples? Are they everywhere or just in certain places? That's a good question. What's your question? What's something you don't know or don't think you know? All right. Now, as we're reading, we're going to be listening for the answer to our question. Now, just because we have a question about a topic doesn't mean we'll find it in one nonfiction book. Sometimes you have to read several different nonfictions on the same topic. So if we don't find our answer in this one, we can always search and go to other nonfiction selections. Okay? Now, when you're navigating a nonfiction book, you have to filter through lots of different features that are going on the page. So there's going to be photos and charts and maps, possibly lots of things that are going to be. This is what I tell my students. Nonfiction books are very busy. There's lots going on. You can't just go to one part of a nonfiction. You have to read all of the information and look at all of the photos, because everything on that page is going to be teaching you something about this topic. So you want to tune into it all. But it can be very busy, so we're going to navigate through this nonfiction selection so we can learn all about amazing apples. All right, are you ready to get started? Okay, here we go. So here is the title page. You know, we see this a lot in our fiction books. Just introducing us to the topic. Now, a lot of nonfiction books have this at the beginning. It's called contents, table of contents. And the table of contents is helpful because it's going to tell you what's contained in the book. So this one is sectioned off into 3 chapters. We've got chapter 1, all about apples, page 4. So if I want to go in and just find out some facts about apples, I can just go to page 4. Remember, with a nonfiction, you can read the whole book, or you can just go in to certain parts and find out specific information. That's a very different way to read, but you can do it with nonfiction. That's pretty cool. Chapter 2, apple trees, and that is on page 8. And then finally, chapter 3, eating apples. Oh, that might be my favorite chapter. And that's page 12. And down at the bottom, it says this book also includes a glossary and some comprehension questions. And that is located on page 16. Now we're going to flip back to the glossary because I do want to bring your attention to that, because we're going to be seeing some words as we read that are in red, and they're pretty bold. And the author wants you to notice those words as we're reading, because those are words that are very important to our topic. They're very specific to apples, and they're words that sometimes in nonfiction, words are science words, or they're words we've not seen before. And so the glossary will tell us, first of all, it breaks it down so that we know how to pronounce the word. So this one is broken up, blossoms or blossom. And then in the glossary, they'll tell you the definition or what that word means. Again, with a nonfiction, since you're learning new information, you might not know what these words are, never encountered them, so the glossary is helpful. So as we're reading, tune into the red words, the bold words. Those are words you can find in the glossary at the back of the book. All right, let's find out what's contained in this nonfiction Amazing Apples book. Here we go. We've already went through the table of contents. All right, chapter 1, all about apples. Apples are crisp and round and juicy. Do you want to learn all about this amazing fruit? Read on. I love these science vocabulary readers because they always ask me a question. They invite me to learn. And they're saying, if you want to know about this, more about this, read on. I like that invitation. Now, if I'm looking at this page right here, I can see there's words at the bottom. There's a real photograph, and look, there's something up at the top. So my eye might want to go here or here. I always like to, if I'm reading a nonfiction, I want to go here, and then I go down here, and then I go on the page for more information. So let's read down here, and then we'll go up and find out what this fun fact is. Apples come in many colors. Well, we saw that just here at my house. There are green ones, my favorite. There are yellow ones, and there are lots and lots of red ones. Now let's go to this fun fact. There are 75,000 kinds of apples in the world. Whoa, I've got 6 apples here. But this book is letting me know that there are actually 7,500 different varieties of apples all over the world. I didn't know that. New fact alert. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Hey, let's learn more. Okay, now there's a real photo. So I'm going to go down here and read, and then I'm going to tune into some words that I see. An apple has different parts. The stem is on the top. The skin covers the outside, and apple skin helps to protect it. I guess kind of like our skin. So in a nonfiction book, if you have the topic and then you have arrows and words pointing, we call that a diagram. It's giving us, again, some information. It goes with what the information tells us down there. Here's the stem. So in case you didn't know what the stem was or where it was, this photo, this arrow, and this word is telling you that's the stem. This is the skin. And we're learning the skin is on the outside for protection. Now, let's go to the next page. Another diagram, and then a close-up photo with some information. But we're going to go down here and read first. So we'll read, and then we'll check out what's at the top. When you cut an apple in half, it looks like this. So that's what it looks like if it's cut in half. The white part is called the flesh. The hard center is called the core. That is where you find the seeds. So this diagram is giving us what's inside because we can't see it from the outside. So you've got your flesh here, white flesh. You've got your core, and then you've got your seeds inside the core and the seeds. And then this photo shows us what the seeds look like up close in a magnified way. And the information says tiny seeds like these can grow into huge apple trees. It's just always amazing to me to think about inside that seed right there, that tiny apple seed is an apple tree just waiting to grow out. Amazing. Apples. Now we are on chapter 2. And remember, chapter 2 was about apple trees. So if I'm looking at this apple tree right here, when you first see it, what do you think? When I first see it, I think, oh, that tree's dead. It's wintertime, it's dead. Do you think that tree looks dead? There's no leaves on it. Let's find out about apple trees in all 4 seasons. Apples grow on trees in winter. An apple tree rests. So it's resting in the season of winter. Sometimes the branches get covered with snow. Apple tree in the winter versus apple tree in the next season. The season that comes after winter is spring. Ooh, wow. Beautiful flowers covered that tree. It's hard to believe that that is the same tree. In spring, an apple tree is thirsty. It drinks up all the rain that falls. The rain helps flowers grow on its branches. And I know in the season of spring, there's lots of rain. And then if we go up here, we don't want to ignore, even though we've read down here, let's get up close to an apple tree, the flower. Hey, there's one of those red words, blossom. An apple tree's flowers are called apple blossoms. So if you didn't know what the word blossom meant, and you weren't sure, the book definitely tells you, but you can always go back in the glossary to know how it's pronounced and what it means. Hi. So we've got winter apple tree, spring apple tree. You know what comes next. Apple tree in the summer. Boy, that's very different. There's no flowers. Now we have lots of green leaves. Apple tree in the season of summer. Let's find out by reading down here, and then we'll go here. All the information on the page is important to our learning, but we want to navigate it in a way that helps us read and flow and understand. In summer, the flowers turn into tiny what? Let me read that again. In summer, the flowers turn into tiny apples. As the tree soaks up the sun, the apples grow and grow. And this is a tiny apple. So where the flower was, there's a tiny apple growing. And if I look on the bottom of this apple, you know what that was? Apple blossom. This is where the flower was. The apple is growing in the season of summer, but it's very tiny, so baby. Let's check out another one. Yeah, that's where the blossom was. That's cool. Now, let's go to the last season, the season we're in right now, the season of fall. In fall, the apples are big and juicy, and that means they are ripe and ready to pick. So, if you go to an apple orchard in the season of fall, you can pick your own apples. I did learn this from another resource, that when you're, number one, the stem that hangs on the branch is very important. It's important to keep that stem on until you're ready to eat it. And if you go to an apple orchard, you don't want to just pull the apple down. You want to twist, and then pull gently. Try to keep that apple and stem together. So we have winter, trees resting. Spring, blossoms and flowers. Summer, the blossoms are turning into apples. They're growing into apples. And then, in the season of fall, they're ripe and ready to pick. Ooh, here's my favorite chapter, perhaps. Eating apples. Dun, dun, dun. Eating apples. There are many ways to enjoy apples. Apple pie is yummy. Do you like apple pie? This book says it's America's favorite kind of pie of all the pies. that people could eat. Most Americans say their favorite is apple pie. What about you? Are you joining the apple pie crowd? I would have to say I'm not an apple pie fan, although I do love to crunch an apple. Hey, even babies can eat apples if they're eating applesauce. Applesauce is yummy. It is made from mashed up apples. That makes it easy for babies to eat. Even babies love apples. Fun fact, apples are also used to make jelly, apple jelly, muffins, breads, and cakes. And you know, there's lots of other foods that we use apples in. Tasty. It's making me hungry for an apple. What about you? How about drinking your apple? Apple juice is yummy too. The juice is squeezed out of apples. It takes about 4 apples to fill 1 glass. I didn't know that, did you? So if you want a full glass of apple juice, 4 apples, see if I can get all 4 in my hands. It takes 4 apples, the juice of 4 apples, to make 1 glass of apple juice. I didn't know that. See, we can always learn new facts. But there's nothing like a plain apple. Why? It's shiny, it's sweet, and simple to eat. Crunch, crunch, crunch. This is definitely my favorite way to eat an apple. Fun fact. This is our final fact. Apples are grown in every state in America. Hey, wait a minute. That was my question. What places can I find apples? Well, at the beginning of the story, it told me that you can find apples all over the world. And also in our country, United States of America, every state in America grows apples. You can find them everywhere. Amazing. I'm so glad, because no matter where, I live in North Carolina now, but if I move to another state, I can find apples there too. Wow, that was interesting. Now think back. What was your question? What were you thinking that you didn't know about apples? Did your question get answered by reading Amazing Apples? If it didn't, then it's time to do some more research. Maybe you can go to the library with your family members and select some books about apples, or you can, with your family members, do a search. Look up this topic, apples for kids, and you'll find there's lots of different resources on the internet. You can do some safe searching with your family members to find out more. Wow, that was really amazing. I'm so glad that we navigated through this nonfiction book. Now, the final thing I'm going to do is give you a little quiz, because this nonfiction book includes this feature. Not all do, but these science vocabulary readers from Scholastic usually have some comprehension questions. Comprehension questions are testing your knowledge. Do you like to take tests? Some people don't like to take tests. The cool thing about these questions, there's only 3. They're questions that you can find the answers to in this book. And let's just see how well we were listening. Question number 1. Can you name all the parts of an apple? Remember those diagrams? We saw the outside and the inside. Let's just think for a minute. All the parts. I remember there was a stem and the skin. And then on the inside, let's think. When they cut it in half, let's name. So we've got the stem and the skin on the outside. We've got the flesh, right? You're right, flesh. What's in the middle? What's in the center? Right? The core. And inside the core, we can find the seeds. Awesome. So far, so good. Question 2. Can you share 2 facts about an apple tree? Now, chapter 2 is about the apple tree. So let's think for a minute. I know the apple tree information was was sectioned off by seasons. Oh, I remember in the winter, this is a fact, apple trees do what in the winter? Right, they rest. That was one fact. What's another fact? Oh, in the season of spring, apple trees have apple blossoms. Correct. Okay, so we got our two facts. No, but if we couldn't remember, here's a good strategy. If your teacher's asking you a question or you're having to answer a question, maybe for some homework, and you can't remember the answer, go back in the book and review. Find the answer in the book. Go back and check out there's lots of information. So sometimes you have to revisit the facts so that you can remember. And that's a great strategy if you're having to answer comprehension questions. All right, last and final one. Can you name, I know I can answer this one. Can you name 3 foods that came from apples? This is my most tasty question. How about you? Okay. I'm going to say applesauce. I know you said applesauce. And then, oh yeah. How about apple juice? And what about America's favorite pie, apple pie? Yeah, but there are lots of foods that come from apples. Hey, have you ever tried in the season of fall, a lot of times at fairs and carnivals, I see candy apples, caramel apples. Have you ever tasted those? Those are delicious. If you haven't tried a caramel or candy apple, you must this fall. All things apples. Well, I know that we have learned some new facts about apples, and I'm glad you joined me to increase our knowledge. And don't forget, if you're curious about any real person, place, thing, or event, check out some non-fiction books at your school library, at the public library, or even go online. There's lots of resources. All right, kids, keep the learning going, keep navigating non-fiction, and please join me. The apple learning is not over. We, on our next video, Time Together, are going to do an apple recipe. Eating apples is my favorite thing about apples. How about we do a recipe? No, we're not going to make apple pie. No, we're not going to make applesauce. It's too messy. We're going to make something maybe you have never heard of. Apple pizza. Yeah, I said pizza. Apple pizza. Have you ever had apple pizza? You just must join me for the next video. We are going to make the most delicious apple treat that I think, next to just eating an apple pizza is my favorite way to eat apples. And it's a fun, easy recipe that we're going to do together. All right, kids, until apple pizza time, as always, keep the learning going, and in the month of September, enjoy a juicy, your favorite apple. Until our next time to go. Have a good one.